Okay, Hernan, we're broadcasting. Go ahead. Thank you.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Rating Series, and now we're very excited. We're gonna have 5 startups from different parts of the world sharing their perspective on education. So I can assume EdTech is on everybody's mind today, as you know, it's seen as a very clear beneficiary of the current COVID pandemic. So here with us today, we have Rama, Mohamed, Martin, Diego, and and Robin from very different parts of the world and from very successful startups to share a little bit more about perspectives on the regions. So the first set of questions is more towards hearing from you. What's the story on your company, who you are, what does the company stand for, and a little bit more of background on the different companies. So with this in mind, I would like to ask ladies first. So Rama, could you share a little bit more about your story, please, and the company?
Okay, sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Rama Kayali, and our company is called Little Thinking Minds. We are based in Jordan. Our headquarters are in Jordan, and we have offices in Dubai and Saudi Arabia. And what we do at Little Thinking Minds, we create online platforms for children between ages 6 and 16 to improve Arabic literacy and Arabic language outcomes. Arabic is the sixth most spoken language globally, with over 400 million Arabic speakers, yet there are very limited platforms and tools that cater to this massive market. Currently, what we have B2B platforms, online platforms, subscription-based, and we have 150,000 users across 250 schools in over 10 countries in the region, including the Gulf, Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, and the GCC, and Canada and the US. We also work in the public school sector in Jordan, catering to refugee and low-income communities. This is basically our story in a nutshell, and we created this company because of our own pain when we had our kids in schools, and we felt there was nothing that catered to the Arabic language. Everything we have was focused on English or other foreign languages, but nothing that catered to our national tongue. And that's how we created this company.
Thank you, Rama. I think that when you mentioned, having to deal with our kids at home, now that has become quite universal as of today. Now, staying in the same part of the world, I would like to ask Mohamed to share us a little bit more about the Noon Academy.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, we're based in Saudi, and we have offices in Egypt and Bangalore and in Pakistan, soon in London. We do it to engage students and deliver a social fun and interactive and engaging. Today we have 6 million students in the region, and definitely that was post-COVID. Before COVID, it was we had 3.5 million approximately.
Wow. Okay, impressive numbers. And now I would like to take it to this part of the world, back to the Americas, and I would like to ask Diego from Slang to introduce himself.
Great, Hernan, thank you. So I'm Diego Villegas, the founder and CEO of Slang. Slang, we started here in Boston out of MIT. What we do is we enable organizations to easily create custom professional English development programs. Basically, we are talking about all those cross-functional and vertical areas like oil and gas, accounting English, finance English, you name it. We have so far the largest offering of professional English in the market, approaching 100 courses available right now. So you can imagine us like the Coursera of professional English. It's very interactive, very adaptive, and data-driven approach. It's the fastest way really to get the real English that companies need for their employees. How we are creating that so fast is because we are using machine learning in the course creation process. instead of the traditional handcrafted curriculum that all the companies try to digitalize in an app, really what we have is a combination of that machine learning and humans bringing like this massive portfolio to the market. Yeah.
Thank you, Diego. And now I would like to ask Robin, all the way on, or late nighter, all the way to Vietnam, to share a little bit more about IE.
Yeah, right. Thanks a lot for everyone joining this evening. So we from IBI Global, that's a platform for business English and innovation coach. You know, when we started IBI, that's been about 7-8 years ago, when we went out and we asked everyone, the student, is this e-learning effective? No. Everyone say no at that time. Even now, if you ask us, is this e-learning effective? Can it replace classroom training? Everyone say no. So, and everything is changing. And in our mind, our team think how we can do a sustainable platform that we can train people, especially social subject like business or English or language, but still can help them achieve academic goals. Not only
Robin, we lost you there for a second.
Okay. So in that way that we created the IBI platform in case
I think we lost Robin there for a second.
Replace classroom training. This is our concept of IBI Global.
Sorry, you lost me there for a second, but
yeah, I think it's you we're losing. Actually, we could hear Robin. Go ahead, Hernan.
Okay, sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bit choppy, but go ahead, Robin.
Oh, okay. So in that way, we create a platform with the concept that the blended e-learning that can replace classroom training. So that's why we have IBI right now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Robin. And finally, we'd like to hand it over to Martin from Aprende Institute.
Great. Hi, Hernan. Hi, Camilo. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. So I'm the founder and CEO of Aprende Institute, and Aprende is basically, we focus on helping people turn their interests and passions into income, and we facilitate lifelong learning in Latin America and the US Hispanic market. And basically what happens for many of you that live in emerging markets, you know that salaries are very poor, and a big percentage of the population has to work in the informal economy or in the gig economy, and many need multiple side hustles basically to generate income for themselves and their families. And then if you move that to the US Hispanic market, even though you might not have the extreme poverty that you have in emerging markets in Latin America, but the conditions are not that different for many of the Hispanics here. You know, they have to work multiple jobs, and almost half of the population, the U.S. Hispanic population, says that they need multiple hustles, multiple gigs to provide primary income. And when you think about what's out there in the market to train people to generate income, you have a lot of money going to boot camps and to develop tech skills. Then you have a lot of money going to people for people to learn languages like English. And then you have a lot of money kind of going to tech-enable higher education. But if you look at that, those are all niches. Like, not everybody's going to learn how to code. Not everybody's going to go to higher education, to college. And when you look around, people are doing pretty much everything except that. And so that's our market. We're focusing on the people that work around vocational verticals and that want to develop those skills. and how we do that, basically, we develop our own content in-house. So it's mobile first, web first, a lot of video, a lot of activities and practical activities where the students actually do things, send pictures to us. And on the other hand, we have basically a team of experts that receive those activities. They provide personalized feedback, and then we're available to the students, not 24/7, but extended hours to answer questions and to interact with the students through our platform or through WhatsApp, which is, you know, where our consumer is. And then the next step of the company is to build a community where we can bring together all these people that today operate in silos. They have very little access to people to get access to best practices, to recommendations for vendors, or just basically get together with people that have common interests. And in terms of tractions, we started in Latin America. Today, the U.S. Hispanic market is our biggest market, but we do feel that what we're doing, it doesn't stop with the Spanish language. It basically applies to any economy to any emerging market where a large percentage of the workforce has similar conditions to Latin America.
Thank you, Martin. Well, it's again, we're very, very excited to have every one of you in this lineup. And what I would like to next ask each and every one of you is, we have had a very interesting webinar series, you know, ranging from food tech to mobility to logistics, prop tech, etc. And I guess the core of the questions have been, you know, very human-centric. And in this sense, you know, we would like to ask all of you, you know, how have you dealt with this current pandemic, right? We are living in unprecedented times. It's certainly very challenging what every single startup in the world currently is enduring. And EdTech, I guess, has certain answers, right? In that sense, the next set of questions is geared towards how are you enduring this current pandemic? How are you weathering the storms? Are you currently on a hiring freeze? Are you pushing actually more on expenses and you know, taking advantage of certain opportunities? I'm sure that there has been a jump increase in many of your current services because everyone is like working from home, and certainly if a lot of students or institutions were not prepared to deal digitally with education, now this is a must, right? It's no longer optional. So I guess the next questions are more towards how are you weathering the storm? How are you, you know, surviving or thriving in the current situation? And what, you know, perhaps key lessons learned or you know, shortcuts could you provide to fellow entrepreneurs and to showcase to investors? So with that in mind, I would like to ask again Rama to share us her thoughts on her region and company.
Okay, sure. So our main client base are schools, and so when the COVID-19 hit, and there was mass school closures across the region, we went into panic mode because the schools did a freeze also on retention. So 90% of our clients come back again the next year, and so when the schools closed and they were freezing and there was uncertainty, especially in the GCC, many people lost their jobs, so they weren't sure they're going to re-enroll their kids in the private international schools that we're in. You know, we had to change our approach. So we focused on three things. We focused on our existing client base. We focused on the teachers, empowering the teachers. We conduct weekly webinars to give you know, tips and tricks on how to best, like best practices for distance learning and how to best use our platform, you know, in a distance learning setting. So we focused on existing clients. We focused on new clients by offering our platform for free. So we have 100 schools now who are using our platform for free, and already many are, you know, saying that they want to subscribe in September when schools start again. And the third thing we did is we focused on parents. So parents became much more involved in the learning process. They wanted to now become, whereas before they were on the sidelines, kind of trusting the teachers and the school to take it over. Now the parents wanted to know, what are their kids learning? How are they improving? You know, how well do they read? How well do they write? So they became more involved, and we now did a lot of more marketing outreach through WhatsApp, through social media. And we're also, changing the journey to make it more B2C centric, not only B2B centric. So in that sense, so in some ways we had freeze on schools, but in some ways we had uptake from new schools. And, the first 2 months, it was a very grim outlook. We were all unsure what's going to happen. Now, 3 months in, actually the outlook is very positive, and not only positive in terms of we see ourselves scaling in this space, but also in usage. So the engagement, the retention on the platform, the time spent, the books read, the essays written, the questions answered, the interaction between the teachers. They're sending much more homework, they're listening to many more recordings, they're sending many more quizzes. That has gone up. So we see that as something positive. But because of the crunch, what we did is we also did some cost cutting, massive cost cutting. Of course, no traveling, no conferences, but even salary cuts. We all said, we're in this together. We need to take a hit. And the cost cutting measures have enabled us to, and we did, of course, a hiring freeze, but now we're looking in Q4 of the year to go back and hire again and kind of be standing on our feet. This is how we see, this is our outlook.
No, thank you, Rama. Talking as a VC, I would say that, the cash constraint has been very real. We have actually, suggested, or even a little bit more harder than suggest, I would say, our portfolio companies to actually, preserve cash at all costs. And certainly this entails a lot of very, very hard questions. And one thing that you said that was very interesting for me is that we have been listening to many verticals where the jump was from B2C to B2B during this pandemic, right? And I think it's interesting, and it makes a great deal of sense how EdTech is probably one that jumped from B2B to B2C during this pandemic, right? So thank you very much for your insights. And now we would love to hear from Mohammed. How are you, weathering the storm, Mohammed?
Yeah, so we're fundamentally a tutoring platform, and I don't think there has been a need for tutoring platforms better in the past. We've been always a supplementary platform helping you out of your school time to pass exams, etc. However, today, tutoring platforms are the main, at least in the school shutdown period, was the main instruction medium for the whole learning experience. So what we did, we actually rushed to open up our platform and make it accessible to schools, to teachers directly without even a need to get any permission from the school, to invite their own students and start teaching immediately on the spot. And we also enabled that in different countries as well. So we expanded into that, during that pandemic, we expanded into 5 countries. And we enabled it quickly. We've seen an uptick in engagement, in retention, in active users growth. However, in certain countries, what happened is that the ministries have canceled the exams. And when they said like everyone is passing to the next grade, people just took a break. So, people did not have enough reasons to study. However, in Egypt, for example, no, they continued to have the exams from their own tablets. So students from their own tablets had their exams, and in which we experienced massive growth in Egypt. So it contributed to our growth. So yeah, we continued to focus on providing this experience to consumers directly. However, we also partnered up with schools, with coaching and tutoring institutions to onboard their own teachers and their own students on Noon and continue to teach. So perhaps we've done the opposite. So from B2C, we also enabled B2B as well.
Thank you, Mohammed. Yeah, I guess one key question that governments throughout the world are facing is exactly what you mentioned, right? Like what's going to happen with students in the current school year? Everybody gets a free pass. It's certainly very interesting to see the different reactions, but it's I guess if everybody in the world is having the same problem, then it's up to creative solutions. But I for one can definitely see that, you know, the time that they have you know, lost during these times, it's probably going to be or needs to be you know, making up for with through edtech platforms or like so. So thank you, Mohammed. And now, you know, away from children and up to corporates and you know, older generations, back to Diego and Slang.
Yeah, thank you, Nan. To give you more context for everybody here, we are operating from, although the headquarters of Slan is in Boston, we are operating in Mexico, Bogota, Colombia, and Sao Paulo, selling to the entire region, to the Spanish-speaking countries from Spain to Argentina, and also Portuguese countries, Portugal and Brazil. Now, what we are seeing here is, I'm going to divide my opinion in two. It's more like the strategic discussion about what is going on in edtech with the COVID. And the second one is like the short-term measures that we are taking here. So in the strategy part, virtual education was quite lack or behind in against like a brick and mortar. The entire digital transformation that started 20, 30 years ago in all the industries, like the education industry was behind. Now with the COVID, suddenly it's like a time compression. So what is happening right now in the last 3 months, and it's going to happen in the next 6 months, is like the adoption or like a virtual education or virtual solutions is going to be what it would otherwise be for the next 10 years. Like there is a massive adoption in all the industries about like a virtual education. That is actually a very good trend. You have like a SaaS company in edtech. Now, in the short term, what we are doing right now is doubling down and hiring people in product, because I think there is a great talent right now that is available. And it's a very good moment to expand in that front. And in the sales and marketing, we are quite neutral, seeing what happened in the market, but it varies in all the industries. Of course, like airline, hospitality, they stop most of the expenses, but there are many other industries that are booming, like software and telecommunications, just to give you some example, or medical devices. And in our case, because we have professional English for all the industries with a very large portfolio, what we are doing is just redirecting our go-to-market to the healthy industries. And it has been working quite well. The first priority during the COVID crisis, it was the health of our team. Then as soon as we set up that, very soon we moved to reduce the burn rate and working in boosting the productivity, since working from home is not the same than face-to-face. In our sales and marketing processes, we were already selling online. So that was like a business as usual for us. So we didn't see any major disruption in our case. Even more, some verticals are really demanding a lot of services, like universities. We have seen that because they are putting all the budget in virtual solutions right now. And so some universities that in the last 12 months, they were saying, okay, let's think about this project. And they were quite slow in the decision-making process. Suddenly we got calls like, hey, we really need to implement a virtual solution in professional English for the term that is about to start in 30 days or something like that. So that's something very interesting that we have seen in this massive adoption in particular in universities, one of our segments. So that's what to say that it depends in industry by industry.
Thank you, Diego. I guess every single captain of any boat, takes care of its people first. So yeah, I think that one key feature that we have seen also across industries is that, safety of employees came first, and again, the hard decisions were need to be implemented immediately. And in that sense, I guess most of the participants mentioned that productivity didn't fall as much as they would initially had expected, right? So many of the things that will happen in this new normality is a big huge question mark is over office space and how will that look in the new normal, right? But we'll have some more time to answer any of those questions. And now I would like to give the word to Robin, and hear from Ivy Global as well.
Yeah. So, yeah, it actually COVID-19 is just like an accelerator of EdTech. Like before, when you ask parents how to log in the platform, it's very difficult for them, or they don't try because it's not emergent. Even the kids, if you ask them to learn online, it is a little bit difficult because it is support with the parents and everything. But with COVID-19, everything become very smoothly. You know what I mean? Even a very old parent still can do it for their kids. So it's really, really a good thing. It's just like an accelerator for EdTech. That's we just took only 2 or 3 months of COVID to really educate people how to log in, how to learn interactive lesson and everything, how to learn online, how to get conferencing. And you can see that's why Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Webex or some content providers like adaptive learning, they can introduce a lot of things to the schools and university. It's a really big chance for growth for EdTech. But it like Diego said, that it depends on the industries and depend on what segment you are offering. So like our segment, because we go like B2B and we are course provider, we are not software as a service provider. So we are more education than tech, right? So it's a lot of things. So that's why our, and we are B2B. And B2B that time is just like every company had to think how to restructuring, have to handle employee layoffs and everything. So that's why they are facing problem and we are facing problem too. So the best thing we are doing right now is caring our existing customer. Our existing customer is the best cash flow for us. And we capture the new, the new clients by offering very creative solution. Like, we have to care, we can work with some like healthcare app or something to go together with education. That's something I think beside a lot of good things, EdTech have, depends on what segments you are going on, you're still facing some challenging, and you need to be very creative to overcome.
Thank you, Robin. No, certainly, these are times where you cannot take customers for granted. And I am sure every single, thing that you have to do to retain your customers will be paid on forward or be, more beneficial to you and your company in the future. But right now, what we have seen across industries, across platforms is that, if you hear that one of your customers is having like a especially rough time or something, you have to, take a step forward and try to make a solution that is more compatible to their needs.
Right.
And before, so thank you very much, Robin, and listening to your insights. Before giving the word to Martin, I just want to remind the audience that if you have any questions, we will have sometimes for Q&A towards the end. So there is a special section that says questions and answers. So please feel free to send any questions that you might have through that format, and we'll provide some time towards the end. So now, finally, for this last participation in this second block with Martin from Aprenda Institute, how about you? How have you been entering the pandemic? And so one final question, a comment. We're also going to have a quick poll for the people that are joining us so that you can, comment on the content and the participation. So without that, Martin, let's hear it from you.
Great, thanks, Hernan. So, yeah, in our case, since we focus on adult learners that want to learn to generate additional income, to improve their lives, we were benefited quite a bit from the pandemic because people had the one thing that we always try to get from them, which is time. So, you know, and people, the ones that weren't procrastinators, to call it that way, that made the decision to invest in their development, had the time to do so. And so we did see a big uptick in demand and lead volume and interest in conversion rates. And then in the platform, we did see more engagement, people advancing at a better pace through their courses, higher completion rates. And one of you mentioned this, but a lot of people had a mental block that the types of things that we teach were not learnable via 100% remote format. And we've been able to overcome that. People are seeing that it's absolutely learnable, that you can go at your own pace, that it's flexible, that it's quality. In our case, the fact that we give people access to instructors makes it feel very personable. It actually, in this context, is as close as it gets to have a personal coach or instructor helping you. So in terms of hiring, marketing, and cash management, yeah, we've seen a lot of talent being let go from very successful startups. So we are on a hiring mode. We're hiring people for product, tech, BI roles. In terms of marketing, we've been aggressive with marketing because we're profitable on the first purchase. So while we've seen some schools, some courses, some verticals have dried up, others have spiked up quite a bit. For example, our wellness school, people are very concerned about their bodies, their immune systems, their mental health, their soft skills. So that's the school that's done particularly well for us. And in terms of operationally how we've dealt with the pandemic, so a lot of our operation of our acquisition strategy utilizes an enrollment center, so a call center, and we had that operation in Bogota, in Colombia. And when we started seeing these orders that people had to stay home, we started freaking out because the paradigm is that call centers operate in one place with a lot of quality assurance, quality control, supervision on in person, all of that concentrated in a space. And we sent everybody home, and we didn't know how it was going to go. But what we learned is that people were much more productive, much more focused, and so today, you know, we're even thinking of not coming back to a full in-person operation, and instead of consolidating all the operation in a single city, we're thinking that maybe we should have satellite operations, for example, in Argentina, to take care of the southern cone of Latin America. Yeah, so that's pretty much it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Martin. You know, it's important in these COVID times, and I was reading a story about, you know, there are certain things that have enabled the flourishing of students in through education technologies, right? For example, the avoidance of bullying, right? There's actually more people enticed to learn and actually more engaged in these platforms because, you know, obviously we miss the good parts of human interaction and, you know, having a teacher like you well said, etc. So I guess this is a real opportunity for each and every one of us, and, you know, the edtech platforms that are presented and among many others, of how we can reimagine the future of education, right? I think that there's a lot of good things about physical education and contact, etc. But, you know, technology can certainly enhance many of these learnings even further. So with that, I'm going to segue towards the third and final block of questions. And this is, you know, how are we imagining the new normal? How are we envisioning that, you know, education is going to change for good or for bad after this pandemic? Will this be temporary or not? particularly, how are governments now using technology, or how are education institutions using technology to enable for a new future. And this obviously panel is focusing key leaders from emerging markets, because that's our focus. And as you can see, there's English courses, we have vocational studies, we have Arabic platforms that cater towards a more segmented student. So obviously our key context here is emerging markets, and how can we in the light of this pandemic be stronger and be stronger companies and be stronger managers given this pandemic. So with that, I'm going to ask again Rama to take us off with this final set of questions.
Okay, this is a big question, so I'm going to try to address what I can. I think in our region, in the Middle East, or at least in Jordan and many of the countries in the Middle East, distance learning failed. It failed because on the government level, on all levels really, but maybe let's talk about the public school level and the government level. The internet connectivity is an issue. The availability of enough devices was an issue. The availability of quiet spaces, we have big families, we have small homes, it was an issue. The ability of teachers to run, who are equipped, who are tech savvy and who know how to run classes online is an issue. So I think in general, in our region, I don't want to generalize, distance learning failed. However, I think that it doesn't mean, it's going to continue to fail. I think, like everyone said, what the crisis and the pandemic has expedited innovation in education. I think eventually we're going to have much more internet penetration, smart device penetration, and it's going to be optimized. And I think also with school fees becoming prohibitive, and with schools overcrowded, and and just more economic hardships on parents, there will be maybe a trend to more homeschooling or to supplementing learning from home as well as from school. And that's why for us, we were very B2B reliant, very, very much teacher reliant, student reliant, but now we want to become more B2C reliant. And we are investing a lot of time and effort and energy and resources on product to make the product more of a self-learning journey, to make it less teacher-led and more student-led, and to make it, to really have, to optimize the achievement of learning outcomes. So, I mean, we are optimistic. There is definitely a lot of interest in EdTech. Our investors have been very supportive. We've been able to, have a bridge loan, to be able to venture into new revenue streams and to explore different avenues of EdTech. So we are weary, but we're optimistic. And we feel that eventually EdTech could be a great partner, maybe the blended learning approach because the teacher, I mean, you can't, I think what also the learning was, I see it with my kids as well. You cannot replace the teacher. There is still the human element that is necessary. So it's the combination of both, and trying to find the best way, the optimal way to get the best out of learning and out of students, for them to find their passion and for them to excel in life.
Yeah, I think that we can ask that question to parents around the world, and I think the answer will be unanimous, right? You cannot replace a teacher. That's for sure. So thank you very much, Rama. And now moving over to Mohammed and the Noon Academy to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you. I think we have to think as an ecosystem. I think the problem is so big, and there would be very few companies that can solve all problems. And I don't think those companies exist today. I think we need to collaborate, we need to think big, and we need to understand each other's strengths and where can we fit. This applies to also in policymaking, where we need to nurture an ecosystem instead of having a monopoly around any part of that solutions. We also, I think, we need to think that how can we collaborate as an ecosystem and make sure there is no child who's left behind or get affected with this pandemic and with any issues that we can get in the future. with our emerging countries, it is not easy to make sure that the coming generation gets the fair amount of education that they deserve. And with all the limited resources we have, and with the huge numbers we have, I've studied in a school that has 50 people inside my classroom, and I cannot imagine that working in any pandemic. And I think we need these online solutions to drive the cost down, and we need to have this innovation to ensure there is no child is getting affected with these pandemics.
No, certainly classroom clutter, I think that emerging world was going more towards that. So again, I think that COVID, just is accelerating many of the hard decisions that should have done in the past. But again, I think I, for one, feel very excited about how EdTech can really redefine education given this current context, because there's no way that we can think that there could be the same quality of education given the traditional model. So again, I think that what you are building in your respective markets and different industries is it's really the way towards the future. That being said, now we'd love to hear from Diego and Slang and all the way to Boston.
Thank you again, Eran. What I think, at the end, there is a transition here in the business model of education. Companies are thinking that it's all about productivity and skilled workers. And I would say that companies are now the new educators. It's quite interesting dilemma, because 10 years ago, 5 years ago, they were waiting for the people to pay for their own studies. And right now it's more like a continual cycle of improvement, step by step, pieces by pieces, and not really like I'm going to do an MBA. So that's not anymore. And that's model of I'm going to take a 3 weeks course of a topic that really is going to boost my productivity in something that I need. Companies are really willing to pay for that. So that's why I say companies are the new educators. And they start seeing that as a strategic advantage to build a certain group of employees that are really strategic in the business as a very high skilled, high performing teams. And that really make the difference in the competition against other people in those industries. So that's something that I imagine that is going to be very large players in training, like a training platform worldwide, and it's going to start being like a local game. Very easily, you are going to start seeing very large contracts or deployment across Fortune 500, for Global 2000, where they set up a platform for all the worldwide employees, or one of the platforms from Europe is selling in Latin America, or one of the platforms from Latin America starts selling in Asia. So really, this is going to be a world without borders in that sense. That's what is going to happen in education, and that's happening now, and it's going to be faster thanks to the COVID transition to digital solutions. So I would say it's a huge change in the business model, because suddenly you start seeing different cities, not as part of the countries, but like for instance in Latin America, for me, all the cities are part of the one single neighborhood. And that's another way to approach the region. Instead of ranking in which country you are selling more, it's like in which sub-region you are selling more, and start ranking all the cities across Latam. So that's something that I do believe is going to be like a big players, and companies are going to be the new educators.
Thank you, Diego. No, I think it's very interesting to understand the new role of the corporate as a stakeholder of education. I think that's very interesting. And yeah, I think that, at least when it comes to cities and how you imagine cities in Latin America, 60 cities have over 1 million people in population. So that's just massive, right? You make a really good point about education, but certainly when we have seen e-commerce or last mile delivery, yeah, Mexico for example, is a country of 130 million people, but Mexico City alone and its macro region has 25 million people. So it makes for a viable business just for a city. And again, one thing that we have studied throughout emerging markets is like, you know, cities like Cairo or Jakarta or Riyadh to a certain extent can sometimes, many of these businesses make up for city place. It's interesting to hear your thoughts about education. I think it's true. I think the world is kind of like shifting towards new sort of like city-state kind of model, and cities will regain a lot of dominance. That's for sure. So thank you very much, Diego. And now moving over back to Robin and Vietnam, and we'd love to hear from you and
Yeah.
your thoughts on how this is going to shape the future.
Right. So you see that's our markets like in Vietnam, Thailand, or some other markets like India or something like that. Actually, we have the same constraints, the same barriers for EdTech, like Ram already said. I don't want to say it again, but I think after COVID, that's mean for the new normal, the EdTech get into the new horizon. For me, there's a lot of solution for EdTech, and it's really make our life or our learners' life really be enriched and more efficiency. For example, you see like, you know, like even now, just like Google Class or adaptive learning, or something like communication or administration, all that EdTech, when you bring into the organization or school or institution, it's really make a school or institution effective and more efficiency. So in that way, you can see that EdTech play a very important role in our new normal. The second thing I want to classify, for EdTech, we have a lot of solutions, but I just want to classify into two things. Is some company will go with tech first, that means technology. That means, for example, like Zoom, we are doing right now, we are people learning now through Zoom or Google Class or Microsoft Teams. That is tech, really supporting learning or communication or collaboration, right? Or adaptive learning, when the student feel that they feel very difficult with the math in grade 2 or grade 3 or lesson 1, they can pick up very fast. But that's all about EdTech. Or we can have communication solution that, you know, between children and parents and teachers, all that really helpful, very helpful. And the second thing for education technology, I would like to go to some company, they go with that's mean education first. That means they go with a lot of pedagogy, understand the learners inside, that we call that e-learning, that how the student can engage in a lesson or something like that. So we will have two kinds of solution, that means big solution for different small type of solution. In that way, in the future, for the long run, if both of that can be together, that's really the big benefits for the students and for the learners. The learner can choose a learning platform that really engage, they really get academic goals, they can achieve all progressive they want, but the school or institute also can get a lot of technology that really behind them to support them more effective and efficient in teaching and learning. So I think the new normal is a new horizon for EdTech.
Thank you very much, Robin. Thank you very much, Robin. You know, very interesting insights as well. And yeah, I guess, you know, there can be a lot of collaboration. You know, we have two English-speaking platforms here today, and yeah, again, the problems being solved by emerging markets and this whole differentiation between, technology, use it for learning, and proper ethic. I think it's going to be something that we'll find out the better models as the world progresses. And I would like to remind the audience that there's a special place for questions and audience. So if you want to share any questions, we already have 3 questions piled up there. Happy to address as many as possible in the last few minutes. But that being said, now I would like to give the word to Martin for his final thoughts on how the new normal is going to redefine edtech for a future generation. So all yours, Martin.
Great, thanks, Hernan. So, at least in our case, we're working with adults that want to learn and workforce development. On the one hand, what we're going to see most likely is rising unemployment, and that will prompt people to have a drive to upskill or reskill to remain competitive, or to pursue side hustles, or to start their own business, and all that around generating income. And on the other hand, we're going to have people that will be looking for affordable and flexible options that to acquire those skills, and that combined with social distancing measures, I think will lead to learners to online programs like Aprende. Something that we've seen is that a lot can be learned online, but I also feel like there's that the in-person time has to be reserved for very high impact touch points. So I feel like universities, like brick and mortar institutions, are gonna readapt to basically move what they can move to an online format, or at least give that flexibility to students that if they don't want to go into classroom or go into a physical setting, that they'll be able to do it online with high quality. But then we'll reserve the physical in-person interactions to build community, to have the social networking aspect to it. And then the other thing that we'll see is I think governments are gonna start putting a lot of money into helping people find new jobs. So that should be gasoline for business models around education, for new business models. And in terms of how we can collaborate as startups, so today, I can talk about examples that we're pursuing. So, for example, we're working with other gig economy platforms like Rappi or even Uber, not a startup anymore, but to basically help them reskill their people, so they can generate additional income besides just being drivers or delivery people.
Okay, thank you very much, Martin. Well, that covers the first part of the the 3 questions. So now we have some pretty interesting questions from the audience, and every one of you in the panel can actually take a look into the questions. But I'll try to read them out loud. And obviously, this is anyone who wants to take a stab at any of these questions can feel free to do so. Or otherwise, if we don't have any volunteers, I might get into the calling mood. But let's take a quick look into what Mohammed Rizki is asking. And he's mentioning that in COVID-19, not only parents are being confused with the learning process, but also the students. My question is, how do you encourage the students to learn using your platform? So any takers for that? Rama?
Yeah, sure. So for us, our platform is a gamified reward-based platform. So every time a student finishes a task, reads a book, does an exam or a quiz, they collect points, and then the points allow them to unlock games. So this has been very effective. We also award, so it's basically reward-based. We also give rewards at the end of the year for highest usage in different countries, cities, and schools. And we also have a teacher reward program. So the teachers who have the highest use also are rewarded, and the teachers get their points through their students doing their homework. So the teachers, they push their students to complete the reading assignment, or complete the whatever literacy-based assignment they have, which in turn they make sure that the students do the homework, and then they get their reward. So using reward-based has been the most effective. And of course, making it engaging. So we're always investing in user journey and making it seamless and easy and fun, because students are very discerning and young kids are very discerning, and they get bored very fast. So we're always investing time and effort into improving the user journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a brilliant question in the sense that you know, many times schools or parents are seen as the key decision maker, but in the end, you know, if the students not get engaged, then the platform loses a very potential benefit. I don't know if out of this question, I don't know, maybe Mohammed, you want to tackle the same question, or should we move to a new one?
Sure. So we try to gamify it by making it more relevant and social. So you find your friends, you study with your friends, you get engaged with them, you compete with them. Even if you're attending a live session, there will be breakouts, and the breakout will be with your friends. So we're trying to make it fundamentally less boring to students and a lot more engaging. And we're doing it by utilizing the social element, especially these days. These days students are locked down in their homes, and they need this social interaction, especially with their peers. So that's how we're covering this need.
Thank you, Mohammed. I don't know if we heard from the younger students, etc. But I don't know if any one of you guys want to take the question of how do you encourage the students, and what other methods do you have? I don't know. Gamification is something quite recurrent, but maybe Robin or Diego, if you have any ideas on this, also happy to engage. I mean, obviously, speaking good English is a good reward on its own, but I'm sure you have done additional things to keep the students engaged.
Yeah, maybe let me take a little bit of that one. In our case, groups dynamics, we believe on that a lot. It's different when you are studying alone that you are studying in a group. So that's why we like to work with companies, and it's because there is a group there, and also there is the company is sponsoring that, and so there is a little bit of accountability with that. And there are certain features that we have been building in our LMS, like goal settings, and depending on those goal settings, usually companies tie that to either like a promotions or job requirements. And when they start seeing just not English per se, but really like a professional English as a mean to continue progressing in their careers or within the company, that's a huge motivation. And the group dynamics are more with like a internal leaderboards, and making that a little more flexible for the company to create different groups, because the group dynamics is it really help a lot as long as the groups are well designed. Like if the group is massive, like 1,000 people, people don't care too much. But when the group is small within a department and they know each other, it's total a different group. So giving flexibility in how to create groups and creating like a leaderboards around that and group dynamics is something that we have found very interesting.
Interesting. Size does matter, I guess. Robin, you want to speak as well?
Yeah. So actually, for our experience, in order to engage learners, that we have three things. The first one is the content. The content is really important. If the content is not engaging, it's for sure that's engaging, right? The second thing is the teacher and the students' relationship. This is very, very important, because that's just like we do it in the physical school. One teacher have to follow the whole courses so they can understand every strengths and weaknesses of the students, and they build the relationship. And when the relationship are made, student learn. The third one is motivation. Online learning without motivation is very difficult. So in order to motivate students to engage to the course or the lesson, we have like very good customer care system that's been reminding, and we have people to talk with them to understand why they leave a lesson or why they don't follow a live classroom. And like I really agree with Diego that a small classroom with the team leader, that's been the group leader in the same company, like we have a company, we classify them into 3 or 4 groups. So it depends on the numbers. Like a group of like 6 or 8 students, they know each other, and when they go to the class, they learn because they understand each other. They understand the problem they are going to solve. So small group with the same specific goal is really help. So that's what I think, and that's the way we think e-learning or edtech in education way. I mean, in pedagogy, not just convenient or anywhere, anytime, right? It's all about how the student really engage, really learn and achieve their academic goal. It's really important for e-learning.
Okay, thank you very much, Robin. We have another question, and I would like to kick it off with Martin because it's something that he mentioned before. And this question goes about: we have seen in the e-commerce space that our human nature still value the brick and mortar venues. In that sense, have you thought about your business evolving into hybrid, virtual, physical, face-to-face learning platforms?
Have you seen or thought about your business evolving to hybrid, virtual, physical, like blended? I guess is the question.
I guess blended, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Of course, we think about it. What you give up when you go to blended is scale. But if you look at very successful edtechs, for example, Trilogy, what they did is they leveraged what the universities had, which was the brand and access to the thought leadership, the best professors. But they would come in, they create the programs that address the immediate needs or demand of the marketplace. And the majority of the experience is online, and then they do bring the students to the actual university's campus for that face-to-face interaction. In the vocational space, you haven't seen that. In the United States, the closest thing you would have to this setting would be community colleges. For example, here in Miami, where I am, you have Miami-Dade Community College that has over 150,000 students. I could see us eventually, for example, doing a partnership with them to expand beyond their physical campuses and offer their develop programs together and joint efforts and be able to reach more people and eventually bring them in for certain things into campus. In Latin America, you don't have that concept of a community college, so you don't have the brand, if you will. What I tell you, we are seeing is, for example, and Hernan here helped us with this, is we're working with a government of Mexico, with a secretariat or the Ministry of Education, to make Aprende an entity that will certify competencies. So usually these competencies had to be evaluated and certified in person. So someone that studied and wanted to say, hey, I'm certified to handle food and beverage, or to do a certain thing, or to cut hair, or to apply makeup, or whatnot, that had to be done in person. We're working with the government to do that certification remotely due to the pandemic. But yeah, I hope I answered the question.
No, I think it's I think, yeah, the whole partnership with physical spaces and the how to avoid this classroom clutter and bring like new innovative context. And we have also discussed some, elements to the whole masterclass thing that we know that Apprendi is working on is pretty interesting. But again, I think that many of these verticals are very international to many of these, emerging markets. And I'm sure that as an English or vocational studies or platforms that cater more towards the culture of a particular region, I think it's something that we will continue to see strong in the future. Moving to a new question, and I think that this is really well suited for Robin or Diego. And the question goes like, if companies are the new educators, how do you deal with poaching? Or do you just accept the cost, hoping the benefit of a well-trained workforce outweighs the potential attrition of employees?
Let me see if I understand that well. Eh, I don't think the dynamics of like hiring and poaching are going to change a lot. Maybe the thing that I think is going maybe to change more is companies are going to start betting more in entry-level roles and internships, or like to start creating in the top of the funnel, the recruitment process, more like a great talent for future generations, and betting like a high potential, and bet on developing them with like a very strategic training programs. Things are changing in the world a lot, and I think they prefer to shape the new generation for like new technologies and things like that. So it's very likely that the HR or talent strategy start going more towards developing people than trying to get someone already with all the skills, or trying to poach someone from another company already with all the skills. Because that's very expensive. At the end, it's a trade-off. That's super expensive and actually very difficult. Really few people in the market are like a high-level performers. Otherwise, all the company would be great. I mean, we live that in our startups. Hire great people is a challenge. So, and you have a very solid training program, really tailored to your business. That's the point. It's really customized or tailored to your business. You can keep the cost of the payroll under control, and at the same time have like a great talent. So it's kind of like I think it's going to be way more on that.
Okay, then perhaps moving to another question then. According to World Economic Forum, 1.57 billion students are being affected by school closures around the world during COVID-19. In Latin America, we have a lot of disadvantage that edtech startups could cover in the market. Is it possible to think about students as one of the largest opportunities in Latin America for digital startups? I guess this probably caters more to Mohammed or Rama as a company, with the perhaps not the deep understanding of the Latin American markets. But if you like to take a staff, we will be very welcome.
I mean, to be honest, I don't know much about the Latin American market or the purchasing power and how much technology is used in schools. I can talk about our region. Schools are very open to using technology, especially, again, here we have in public schools and private schools. So the private schools, they employ technology a lot. The public schools, not so much, but it's increasing. So on a school level, yes, students can be it's a huge market, and there is a lot more uptake in technology. But I think there's also that balance between the B2B targeting parents and targeting schools. And I think parents now are going to be much more involved in their children's education because of what has happened. And so for sure, it's a huge market, and it's a market where it has so much impact. And there's a lot that can be done quickly and to see results quickly. So I think it's a very exciting space to be in.
I absolutely agree. So I think also if you look at funding in the past, the K-12 sector, the student sector from elementary to high school, they never, tech companies in that segment never had enough funding in the past. And I believe these days it has been changing a lot. If you look at the Chinese and Indian startups, and I would guess the need in Latin America won't be far from the need in India and in the Middle East and in China as well. And those top edtech companies are tutoring and are K-12 companies, and that has been changing in the past. So I strongly believe it's a great opportunity, and I would encourage more startups to be in this space as well.
Thank you, Mohammed. Well, we are just in the nick of time, and I think that I don't know if anyone wants to have some like parting thoughts, etc. But if not, I would definitely like to thank you on behalf of Angel Ventures, Iliad Partners, and the Inter-American Development Bank for participating into this Rethink EduTech webinar series. We're very happy for all of what you have shared with us today. Everything is recorded, so it will be there for posterity. And we have seen very deep engagement after we post this on social media. So again, thank you very much for your insights, and we welcome each and every one of our attendees tomorrow. We're going to have a very interesting discussion among the venture capital funds that support EdTech, and also among companies that are incumbents into this sector. So again, thank you very much for your participation, and we look forward to keep on the conversation rolling, and I'm sure that all of these connections are going to be like long lasting, and we will very much welcome all of you guys doing business or making a better world in the future together. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks to you.
Thank you guys. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.